but he sort of contaminates man with his grace, with his holiness. So that pagtingin ni God, kita niya just like in the Protestant version, just yung tao dahil pinakpan siya ni Jesus. In our case, hindi lang tayo tinakpan ni Jesus, kundi pinalinis tayo ni Jesus. So ito yung reality na sinasabi ni Pope John Paul. Yes, fallen nature. Yes, we can say that still man is simul justus et peccator. Sinful in the sense that he still tends towards sin. He still has concupiscence. He can still fall if he is not careful. And all the more we need the grace of God. We need His elevation, sanctification. And therefore, the spirituality of holiness, far from making us proud, it should make us humble. Humility to turn to our Lord. Because we know that without Him, we will just fall and fall and fall. Humility to turn to God in our prayers. Yes, in our prayers. Humility to turn to God also through His instruments. And who are God's instruments? And here we have our church, grace given to us through the sacraments. So the sacraments bring us grace. And this is God's instrument. Because I don't know if any of you has seen God in person. Baka wala ka na nag-appear sa inyo. Or even an angel. Natutulog kayo naman. May kumatok na angel. I am God's angel. Ganito gawin mo. Ito. Baka wala pa naman. At sabi pala ni St. John of the Cross, pag may nag-appear sa inyo na angel, nagdadasal ka, may nag-appear na angel, sabi niya, huwag mo pansinin yung angel. Huwag mo pansinin. Bakit? First distraction mo yan. What you're doing in prayer, you're talking with God. Pag may nag-appear ng angel, huwag ka muna. Kay God muna ako. And besides, sabi ni St. John, baka fallen angel yan. Baka hindi angel talaga. Because the devil can also show himself to our imagination in the form of angel. So, kaya sabi ni St. John, hindi mo ma-discern yan kung angel ba talaga o devil. So, sabi niya, wag na yan. So, maybe wala pa nag-appear sa atin na angel, or whatever. Hindi natin masyadong papansinin. But God has given us concrete ways, very concrete ways to guide us, to elevate us, to continue His own ongoing redemption. Sabi nga ni St. Paul, I have to complete in myself the sufferings of Jesus, the salvation of Jesus, the redemption of Jesus has to be completed in me. Ewan ko ano yung mga technical na mga sinasabi ng mga exegetes. Although I think to complete in the sense of the subjective part. Because Jesus always offers to us His merits, His grace. He always offers. Kaso pag hindi natin tinanggap, incomplete pa rin. Kasi hindi dumating sa atin. So we complete that by allowing Him to enter into our lives. By allowing His grace to work in us. And how do we do this? Yes, in our prayers. And also through the sacraments. Kaya tayo binigyan ng 7 sacraments. To give us His grace. Sabi nga, sacrament is, ano nga ba yan? A visible sign of an invisible reality which affects grace. It's a visible sign of an invisible reality that affects grace. So, ano itong visible? Okay, nandun yung ating bread and wine, nandun yung water, baptism, nandun yung absolution, sa confession, and so on. So, itong binigyan ng Panginoon. And we take advantage of this. We are weak, we are earthen vessels, although nandun yung grace. Nandun yung tulong ng Panginoon. In a very realistic way. Kasi kung sa dasal, yes, mahalaga yung dasal. We have to have our daily time of prayer. At yan din yung ating theme, the priest, man of God, and teacher of prayer. We can teach prayer only if we ourselves pray. Nemo dat quod non habet. One cannot give what he does not have. So if he does not have a life of prayer, we cannot give prayer, a life of prayer to others. Words to fight. Ibig sabihin lang 10 minutes to go. 10 minutes to go. Ganun kasi ginagawa ko sa Latin, may assign ako isa na pag 5 minutes ka lang magsabit. So, tama-tama. Ayan. So, life of prayer. Also, life of the sacrament. The sacramental life. That is why the church has always recommended, in our case, communion, the mass, walang problema kasi araw-araw nagmimisa tayo. Minsan, more than one. And then pag Sunday, minsan tayo ay nagiging ano tawag doon? Champion of the masses. Pag Sunday, champion of the masses. For masses. Ayan. So, sa misa, okay, nandun na yung grasya, natatanggap na natin. Sana maging champion of confession din tayo. So, a lot of confession, going to confession regularly, going to confession, and also hearing confession. Sabi ni Pope John Paul II, we can be good confessors. We can be good confessors if we ourselves go to confession. We can be good confessors if we ourselves go to confession. So, we can because our own struggles, we ourselves, not only theoretically, but also the experience of God's grace, the experience of His mercy, our own experience of conversion. That is why the Church has recommended frequent and regular confession. Frequent and regular confession. To the people, and how much more to us priests. Of course, minimum, at tinatanong ako minsan ng mga seminarian. Sabi ng mga seminarian, Father, kasi minsan may nakikitira sa amin, ng mga pare, gano'n, or whatever, na napapansin nila hindi nagmamas everyday. Hindi sila champion of the masses. Hindi sila nagmamas everyday. So tinatanong ko, Father, hindi ba kasalanan yan na hindi nagsa-celebrate mass? So in-explain ko sa kanila, well, strictly speaking, yung pare, anong minimum requirement sa kanya? Pag minimalist ka, yung pare, sumimba lang every Sunday, sumimba lang siya, hindi siya nagkakasala. Magsimba lang. Bakit? Anong requirement? Requirement is go to Mass on Sunday. Go to Mass on Sunday. So, simba lang siya, not even to celebrate Mass. Simba lang siya every Sunday, pwede na. Wala siyang kasalanan. Although, I have to explain na, well, minimum. Yan, if he really wants to grow in his spiritual life, in his holiness, to respond to God's grace, to correspond, and so on, of course, the best, and we have always been recommended, encouraged to celebrate the daily Mass. To celebrate, hindi lang to attend, but to celebrate. Even Pope John Paul II in his letter to priests encourages the seminarians to attend Mass daily, and for the priests to hopefully get the habit so that when they become priests, they would celebrate the Mass every day. So maybe yung confession, ganun din. Of course, minimum, kung tanungin tayo, minimum is to confess our mortal sins once a year. At least once a year. Yan sa mga lay people. Well, in the case of priests, may ibang may additional tayong requirement kasi we should not celebrate Mass in a state of mortal sin. We have to do the confession before that. Unless medyo naalanganin na wala talagang pagpangkisalaan, nandun may misa natin, pwede. But with the resolution to go to confession immediately, to confess our mortal sin. Anyway, going back, this is a channel of God's grace, the sacraments, also confession. So maybe one thing that we priests to do is regular, frequent confession, and also to appreciate the sacrament more also by making